Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. This is the Lobby Days 2026 training webinar, How to be an Effective Lobby Days Advocate. My name is Amy Hom. I'm one of the directors of AAUW California Public Policy. Together here with me tonight is Missy Maseko, the other director of Public Policy, and Kathy Van Osten, our wonderful legislative advocate in Sacramento, who knows everyone at the Capitol and everything about how to effectively advance legislation. Here's what we will cover tonight. First, an overview of this year's Lobby Days, the purpose of Lobby Days, how to prepare for and conduct your meetings, meeting scripts, and how to talk about our 3 priority bills. The material we will cover tonight is posted on the AAUW California website, so you'll be able to find everything there. And to find the material, on the AAUW California homepage, about halfway down, you'll find the Lobby Days 2026 page. Click on that, and that will take you to where all of tonight's materials are posted. The 2 most important sections for you to pay attention to are this top bar for your legislative office meeting and the second bar, bill packages. With that, let's get started. First, a brief overview. This year, we're trying a new approach to Lobby Days with emphasis on in-district meetings. And a Zoom option is available for those who are unable to travel to district offices. The shift was inspired by recent experience. Meetings with Sacramento offices have become really hard to schedule. Offices are routinely overbooked, most meetings get scheduled at the last minute, and most meetings are with staff rather than legislators. In 2025, 84 of the 94 meetings that we had were with staff. In 2025, the Redlands branch did things differently. They scheduled their own meetings in the district, and they secured 8 in-person meetings with district offices, of which 4 were with the legislator and not just staff. In November, we sent out a survey to all members to ask for their preferences for Lobby Days 2026, and members overwhelmingly indicated that they would like to follow the Redlands model and meet with district offices. This year, we have 192 participants representing 64 branches. These folks have been placed into 30 in-district teams and 13 Zoom teams. Teams were formed based on the participants' preferred format and shared legislators. Branch members were kept together where possible, and wherever there was a legislator that is shared across in-district and Zoom participants, the in-district team was given preference. A few people were assigned to 2 teams, and this was an attempt to give everyone the opportunity to meet with both of their legislators. If you have been assigned to 2 teams, you can't join one of them, let the team leader know of the meeting that the meeting that you're not going to be able to join. Altogether, we plan to meet with 36 Senate offices and 60 Assembly offices, 96 offices in total, which represents 80% of all of the legislative offices in the state. And with the new approach this year, emphasizing in-district meetings, our hope is that more legislators will join our meetings. In-district meetings are going to be taking place between March 27th and April 17th. These meetings are being scheduled by the team leaders. Team leaders, if you are having problems with an office that's not responding to your requests, please reach out to the scheduler of that office to ask for their help. You can find these schedulers' contact details in this codex, which is linked on this slide. Be persistent. One of the team leaders who secured meetings with both her senator and her assembly member told me that the squeaky wheel gets the oil. She was able to get her team's meetings by calling into the offices and being persistent. And if you still continue to have problems, reach out to us at our public policy email. Zoom meetings will be held from April 8th through 10th. These meetings are being scheduled by AAUW California. Team leaders, please look for the calendar invites that we have been sending out with the day, time, and Zoom link details. For both in-district meetings and Zoom meetings, team leaders are responsible for communicating meeting details with team members. And here, I want to pause for a moment to say a big thank you to all of our team leaders. Your role is critically important to the success of these meetings, and we are extremely appreciative that you have stepped up to take on this role. Thank you. The purpose of Lobby Days is to establish relationships with your legislative offices, tell your legislators about AAUW, AAUW California, and your branch, and most importantly, advocate on behalf of AAUW California's priority legislation for 2026. Meetings will typically last 15 to 20 minutes. In-district meetings may be longer, depending on the legislator's availability. The team leader will make introductions, present an overview of AAUW, AAUW California, and the team leader's branch if it is in the legislator's district. The team leader will express appreciation to the legislator for their leadership and their support of AAUW values as applicable. Team members will explain their assigned bill and ask for a commitment of support. And at the end of the meeting, the team leader or another team member will thank the legislator or staff for their time, ask for a photo, and get contact information for follow-up. Some do's before the meeting. Do some homework. Know where the member stands on AAUW values. Make sure you understand the bills. Plan to use the talking points. You can paraphrase or shorten the script, but don't deviate from the main points. This is really important to ensure that we're all representing AAUW California's positions in a consistent manner. If you have a relevant personal story, tell it. This can be very compelling. A little later on, Missy is going to speak further about the most effective strategies for storytelling. Practice. Do a few run-throughs of your script. Make sure you're comfortable with it, and make sure you're coming in at the allotted time. Team leader scripts should be no more than 3 minutes, and bill scripts should take no more than 2 to 2.5 minutes max. If you're participating via Zoom, make sure that your equipment is working and there are no distractions like barking dogs. During the meeting, relax. Most of these offices are very, very nice, and they're just people. Let them know if you're a constituent. Let your pride in AAUW shine through. Stick to your allotted time. It's okay to read from your talking points. Give them time to ask questions. If you don't know the answer to a question, it's okay to say, I don't know. Write down the question and tell them that someone will circle back to follow up. And ask if we can count on the members' yes vote. Some don'ts. If you've been a campaign contributor, don't mention that. This is a big no-no. Make sure you're not late. If you're holding a Zoom meeting, please do not join any earlier than 5 minutes before your meeting time. If you join too early, you'll terminate the previous meeting that's in progress because we're using shared Zoom accounts. Don't interrupt when they're speaking. Don't ramble. And give your undivided attention to the meeting. This means no eating, no drinking, no knitting. And this is actually not a joke. We heard a report that this happened last year, so please don't do that. Some don't forgets. Team leaders, it's very important at the start of the meeting to ask how much time they have. If they have a hard stop and they can only give you 15 minutes, you'll want to make sure that you're guiding your team to be succinct so that you can adequately cover all three of the priority bills. Remember to be flexible. There are sometimes last-minute changes that are beyond our control, and make sure that you note questions and concerns and responses. This is the team leader script, and it is posted on the website. So I'm not going to go through it line by line. I'll just point out some of the highlights. As we just mentioned, you'll want to start off by asking how much time they're able to spend so that you can move the meeting along briskly if needed. Briefly introduce AAUW. If you're from the legislator's district, tell them very briefly about one or two things your branch has been doing locally. If you're not from the legislator's district, but another team member is, have that person briefly talk about one or two things that her branch has been doing locally. And if no one on the team is from the legislator's district, explain that and tell them briefly about some of the things AAUW does around the state. The Teen Girls Reproductive Health Awareness Project is an exciting project that AAUW California has been working on this year. You can tell the legislative office about it to give them an idea of some of the things that we're doing. The Teen Girls Reproductive Health Awareness Project was started by the Orinda Moraga Lafayette branch, who worked with a group of local high school students to write a House resolution sponsored by Assembly Member Rebecca Bauer-Cahan, declaring September 2026 as Reproductive Health of Teen Girls Awareness Month. And AAUW California is now conducting research on potential methods to educate youth about social media misinformation related to reproductive health. Depending on the results of that research, this may potentially turn into a piece of legislation that we author. It's really nice to be able to start off your meeting by acknowledging and thanking the member for their leadership and their support of AAUW values, if applicable. You can check this linked document, 2025 floor votes, to see how the member voted on our two A priority bills last year. If they voted yes, thank them for their yes vote. And if you're meeting with one of these offices, Stern, Menjivar, Krell, or Addis, these are authors of our A priority bills last year and this year. So be sure to thank them for their leadership on these important bills. If you're meeting with a member who is not closely aligned with AAUW's values, thank them for the work that they're doing in the district. And you might tell them that we may not always agree on every issue, but we believe that some of the bills that we're supporting this year will be ones that they will find worthwhile to support. Now you'll transition to the bills. Explain that each year, AAUW California develops a legislative agenda of roughly 30 bills that align with our mission. And today we're going to be focusing on our three top priority bills. And then turn it over to your team members to speak about the bills. For the team members who present the bills, check this linked document to see if the member that you're meeting with serves on any of the committees who have heard or will be hearing the bill that you're presenting. We do have one bill, AB 1766, that has been approved by the Assembly Education Committee. So if you're presenting AB 1766 and you're meeting with one of the Assembly members that serves on the Education Committee, thank them for passing the bill out of committee. This is especially important for Assemblymember Josh Hoover and Assemblymember Leticia Castillo. These are the two Republicans that serve on the Assembly Education Committee. Because so many of our priority bills tend to be aligned with Democratic lawmakers more so than Republican, it's really nice when possible to be able to acknowledge the Republican members for their bipartisan support. So after thanking these members for their leadership, you can then go into the bill talking points, and Missy is going to be presenting those in just a few minutes. I know that that's what you all are most excited to hear about. and we're almost there. Finally, once all of the bills have been presented, the team leader or another team member will close the meeting by thanking the office for their time, asking for a group photo, and getting their contact information for follow-up. Are there any questions on this first section that I just went through?
Oh, Amy, there are many questions.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so some of them are logistics. So I'll do the easy logistics questions first. Um, are these slides available?
They will be. They will be posted on the Lobby Days page.
Um, and the other question is, can you make all the links available? And I'll tee that one up for you, Amy.
Okay, the links are all going to be live inside the presentation deck, which is going to be posted to the website. So you can get them from this deck, but you can also get them all from that Lobby Days page that I shared earlier at the start of the presentation. So if you go to the AAUW California webpage, the Lobby Day page is about halfway down. Click on that, and all of the materials are all posted there.
All right. So we've dropped some of the links from the slides also in the chat here too for your convenience. Um, so I'm gonna and see those ones are answered. Okay, I think those are all the logistical ones. Um, so here are the harder questions. Are you ready, Amy and Kathy, for the harder questions? Here we go. All right. Um, so there are a few about teams and team leaders. Shelly asks, I am on two teams. My branch team has been emailing and coordinating, but she hasn't heard anything from the other team. How does she find out about a team leader and role for that other team?
Okay, so in early February, we sent out emails to all the team members to let them know who the team leaders are and who the team members are on their team. So you should have received an email that tells you who your team leader is and their contact information. If you can't find that email, please reach out to us at the public policy email and we will get that information for you.
Excellent. Um, More team leader questions. Will the team leader have the AAUW public policy brochure?
I the brochures or the cards have been sent out to all of the public policy chairs of all of the branches. So the team leaders should be able to make arrangements to get some cards from their branch public policy chair. And again, if you are not able to do that, if you're having trouble getting a hold of cards, let us know and we will send some out to you.
Excellent. All right. So Meredith asks, is it too late for new people to get involved in the teams?
Meredith, if you're the team leader and you want to add more people to your team and you have the capacity to do that and you still have time to prepare them before your scheduled meetings, by all means, more people are welcome to join. And please just let me know who they are so that I can add them to the master list.
Excellent. And this one, I believe, for Amy or Kathy, and that is, can you talk about whether it's valuable to let a legislator know if you voted for them or volunteered on their campaign?
I'll grab that one. If you, I would probably steer clear of that. You can, what you want to do is separate the ask on the public policy from the political. And while we're not talking about money, when you walk into an office and you say to a legislator, oh, hey, you know, I supported you at your last fundraising event, they should shut the meeting down and call it a day. That's frankly the right thing for them to do. But if you volunteered on the campaign, um, my feeling is I would kind of venture away from it. Just let them know, you're glad to see them in office. I think to say that you voted for them is fine, but when you start getting into the campaign side of things, it's just best to kind of steer clear of that, because we just don't want to mix the politics and the policy. And it can kind of set a member off a little bit and make them a little bit uncomfortable. And we don't want to do that. When we walk into an office, we want everybody to be relaxed and feel good. So I think it's fine to say, I've supported you at the ballot box. Glad you're here. Thank you for your work. And I would leave it at that. I think that's fine. But anything beyond that, I would probably shy away from.
Thank you. So the question about cards has initiated a number of other questions about cards. So the one question is so one person says they're not familiar with them. And so I am going to drop the link to our public policy priorities page into the chat, and the cards can be downloaded there in their own form. Another question is when were the cards mailed, and should we have already received them?
Cards were mailed out, I believe, back in the August timeframe. There were a stack of cards that went out to all branch public policy chairs or presidents. So reach out to those folks, see if you can get some cards from them. And if you have problems with that, we can send some out to you.
Great, thank you. And remember, you can always download the PDF from the website. And if you need fast turnaround, you could also take them to a print center and have them printed up based on the design that is there. Let's see if there's anything else for right now. Here's one clarification question on the end of the meeting. Carolyn asks at the end of the meeting, do we ask for the representative to notify us if the bill has passed? Amy or Kathy, would you like to take that one?
I'll grab that as well. No, that's frankly my job to let you know when a bill has moved out of committee or passed off of a floor. It's too much to ask a legislator or their staff to notify you when a bill is, has advanced. And you can go to the AAUW legislative tracking form that I'm hoping everybody, that might be another link we want to put in here. Because what we do is I go in and update that as regularly as possible and let you know what's happened to a bill, if it's moved on, and basically when it's going to be up for hearing.
And I'll just add to what Kathy said to say that on the public policy page of the AAUW California website, up at the top banner on the right side, there's a red button for the bill tracking report. So that is a live report. You can always click on that to see what the latest status is of our legislative agenda.
So I think the rest are bill things, although I will say that Amy and the web team get some accolades in the Q&A too, for doing an amazing job with the website. And there's lots of thanks in there for the additional information about floor votes. So I wanted to make sure that those were highlighted as well. And I think everything, there's one that I'm not sure we want to address now, but I'm going to raise the question and we can decide to address it now or address it after the talking points. And that is the persistent question of how does AAUW write bills? Isn't that a legislator's job? Shall we do that now or later?
We could do that now. Yeah, why don't we do that now?
Okay.
So more often than not, we are looking at bills that have been introduced. Policy committee takes a look at these bills and then collaboratively decides which bills that we want to take positions on and which bills, what priority those bills would meet. So we have A-level bills, B-level bills, and C-level bills. For the most part, when we have co-sponsored bills, we have either been asked by an author or their office or other co-sponsors to come on board as a co-sponsor. So we're not drafting that bill. In my work with AAUW over the last, I'm not going to remember perfectly clearly, I think it's been 6 or 7 years, but we have initiated one bill basically from scratch. And that was a bill a couple of years ago that would have prohibited, it prohibited cost sharing for rape victims when they go to the ER, when they get their rape kits are already free, but other types of services, diagnostics, there are copays involved in that. We did the research. Actually, I will give credit to Kathy Harper, who saw an article in a newspaper and thought it was very interesting that rape survivors are actually being asked to have to pay, and it can get expensive for their ER visits and subsequent care. So we did the research, worked with the doctor, I believe, who actually wrote that op-ed, and we drafted the bill from scratch. I actually did the drafting on that bill and ran it by AAUW, and Kathy took a look at it. And so that bill was introduced, and we were successful getting that to the governor and getting it signed. So depends on the situation. But if we do have a bill that we want to move forward, there's from A to Z, it's a lot of work. You got to do research. And if it makes policy sense, if there's a way to figure this out to move it forward, then we would do the drafting.
Thank you very much. Let me see. I think the other ones are process. We can pause them. There's one. Let's do Amy, Kathy, can we do two more?
It's your party. I'm here to help.
And it is a party. It is a
Yes.
party, right? Okay. So Asha asks, should we watch the progress of the bill so we have current information for the legislator?
We do watch the progress of bills. We've had one that has advanced out of committee, in particular, AB 1766. We're a co-sponsor on that bill. Right now, we've got a couple of bills up tomorrow. There are a number of bills that are being set currently over the next several weeks. I think the only other bill that would be timely, it's actually a B bill. So your A bills, the ones that we are talking about and prioritizing, I don't anticipate any action before Wednesday. And then before the week that you are doing your in-district meetings or your Zoom meetings, double check on the legislative tracker. That's probably the best place to get the most current information about the status of the bills. So, we will continue to work and make sure that we are making that document as current as possible on a daily basis so that you have that information on those A bills that you're talking about.
Thank you very much. And I think this one will be also for Amy, but Kathy, you can weigh in too. On the links, there seems to be an ongoing stream of comments on the legislation. Should we be reading through that or just stick to our talking points? I think I know the answer to this one, but Amy and Kathy, do you want to take it?
Well, Yeah, you definitely, we ask that you stick with the talking points and feel free to paraphrase or cut down the talking points so that you stay within your allotted time. But we really encourage you to stay consistent with the talking points because that's how we ensure that all of us are consistently talking about these bills and representing AAUW California's positions in a consistent manner.
All right. Um, I think we can pause the other questions because they deal with the bills themselves, and we can circle back for the next question cycle. But all right, so does that mean I'm up?
That means you're up, Missy.
Oh,
Thank you.
all right, my turn. Um, so this year, our three priority bills are AB 1766, Assemblymember Maggie Krell, Human Trafficking Prevention Education. We are sponsoring this bill. We are also sponsoring AB 1845, carried by the same office, Student Safety and Anti-Exploitation Act. And our third A bill is AB 1876 by Addis, the Fair Care for All Act. And we'll go through each one individually. I'll give you a little bit more background. So the first two bills that I mentioned, and here I think we'll address another one of the questions that Dawn asked about how these bills are aligned with our AAUW values. So AB 1766 and AB 1845, these two bills are come out of the Office of Assemblymember Maggie Krell, who invited AAUW California to co-sponsor human trafficking legislation in this bill package. So this was a great thing to happen, and very cool that we actually were approached. A big shout out to KVO for being the person that is our face and our voice in Sacramento, and bringing us to a place where we do get to be approached by assembly members for these kinds of things. The issue of human trafficking is quite urgent. Traffickers are increasingly using digital spaces and digital exploitation to target potential victims. And that targeting is happening at younger and younger ages, including into middle school and even early elementary school. So these bills are a package that I'll talk through a little more that move us through kind of prevention frameworks and reporting frameworks from K through 12 and then into higher education. These bills strongly align with our public policy priority under the pillar of social and racial justice, freedom from violence in all its forms and wherever it occurs. And I have a screenshot here, but also you are connected to the public policy priorities page in the chat. These are not the talking points. This is just a little bit of background. So AB 1876, this bill is really similar to one of our A priority bills from last year, SB 418. That bill made it, you may remember if you did lobby days last year and spent time working on presenting SB 418. That bill actually made it the whole way through into the governor's desk, and it ended up being vetoed at the very end. The governor cited cost concerns because the bill had kind of a later addition of 12 months of hormone therapy coverage. And so in the end, it was vetoed. AB 1876 is almost identical to SB 418, except they removed the hormone therapy coverage from the bill, which again was the reason that the governor cited for its veto. So, as with last year, AB 1876, much like SB 418, strongly aligns with our public policy priority, again, under the pillar of social and racial justice, self-determination and reproductive health, and equal access to quality health care, including gender-affirming care. So that's a little overview of the bills and how they align. And I think we are going to dip into the talking points next. So, AB 1766, title is Human Trafficking Prevention Education. As we said, the author is Assemblymember Maggie Krell. This one is sponsored by AEW California. Human trafficking and exploitation is a massive crisis that impacts men, women, children of all ages and across a number of populations. Children are increasingly the target for sex and labor trafficking and online exploitation. Traffickers often target vulnerable populations, but no socioeconomic group or student demographic is completely immune from this threat. Cases of child exploitation, including trafficking, are found in every area of the country, rural, suburban, urban settings, and involve economically and demographically diverse groups of children spanning from very early childhood through adolescence. So current law requires age-appropriate education on human trafficking starting in grade 7, so grades 7 through 12. But we know that children younger than 12 are often vulnerable targets for human trafficking and becoming more vulnerable. Recent research shows that the age of exploitation is getting even younger for minors. And we also know that new forms of digital exploitation are often overlooked by educators and sometimes misunderstood. So when school professionals have appropriate training, schools are an institution that are well positioned to not only educate, but identify and report suspected trafficking and connecting affected students to critical services. So education at an early grade level with face-to-face instruction remains vital. Schools are positioned to be a critical source of information, especially on things like healthy relationships and identifying and rejecting exploitation. So what this bill would do is require the Instructional Quality Commission to consider the inclusion of developmentally appropriate human trafficking and exploitation lessons for grades K through 12 on a number of points. How to prevent human trafficking, including online exploitation, intrafamilial exploitation risks, help-seeking strategies, healthy boundaries, healthy relationships, and importantly, bodily autonomy. It will teach kids how to stay safe from sexually exploitative materials and online deepfakes, providing more information about digital citizenship and how to recognize and report behaviors. And lastly, the bill expands evidence-based training requirements for certain staff members so that they can identify human trafficking and exploitation signs, online risks, and ensure that proper interventions and reporting of suspected cases actually make their way through the system. So we respectfully ask for your yes vote on AB 1766. Our second bill is Assembly Bill 1845. So this is the Student Safety and Anti-Exploitation Act. Author is again Assemblymember Maggie Krell. This is another bill that is sponsored by AAUW California. Here, we've talked about human trafficking in K through 12, but human trafficking and exploitation is also something that affects students as they enter into post-secondary education. It's not usually associated with college campuses, but a recent study conducted among college students on 12 Southern California campuses found that nearly 1 in 5 students experience forced coercion into selling sex as a college student. 34% had considered selling sex to support loved ones or pay for school. College students can be really vulnerable to risk factors that also exacerbate this as a problem, such as housing instability, lack of social or familiar support, or first-time encounters with exploitative situations that they might not have had before. This is all compounded by increased risks of targeting based on histories of existing trauma or marginalization. Factors like gender, sexuality, race, ethnicity, immigration status, or socioeconomic status make this issue potentially worse for students. So, Title IX was federally enacted in 1972 to help to prohibit sex-based discrimination like sexual harassment and sexual violence in any education program receiving federal funds. And although human trafficking and sexual exploitation through online platforms, social networks, recruitment, coercive relationships constitute really severe forms of gender-based violations under Title IX, existing law does not specifically require the inclusion of human trafficking in campus training and protocols under Title IX. So, to address human trafficking and exploitation on college campuses and remedy those gaps in Title IX coverage, AB 1845 requires post-secondary institutions to do the following: update their sexual harassment training for employees to include human trafficking and require employees to receive training annually. It ensures that campus officials include human trafficking related crimes when compiling records of crimes on campus to raise awareness. That requires that post-secondary institutions construct written agreements with law enforcement clarifying human trafficking investigation responsibilities, and that they adopt a policy concerning incidents of human trafficking, a statement that trafficking is a state and federal crime, and physical signs that might indicate trafficking is occurring. For all of these reasons, we respectfully ask for your yes vote on AB 1845. And our last bill, our last A bill, is Assembly Bill 1876, the Fair Care for All Act. The author is Assemblymember Dawn Addis. AAUW California is in strong support of AB 1876. Recent trends in the federal government challenging the legality of diversity, equity, and inclusivity have created a lot of uncertainty about the future of non-discrimination protections in healthcare. And this bill would explicitly prohibit a health plan or health insurance provider from denying coverage, benefits, or limiting healthcare services to a person based on race, color, national origin, age, disability, or sex. And when we say sex here, that includes sex assigned at birth, sex characteristics such as intersex traits, pregnancy, and gender identity. In preventing discrimination in healthcare coverage, AB 1876 protects anyone who is subject to discrimination generally and sex stereotyping specifically in healthcare from losing coverage, from being denied health benefits, or limiting healthcare services based on sex, regardless of shifts in federal interpretation of what sex means and what non-discrimination is. This bill also specifically increases protections for transgender and gender diverse communities, providing a lot of safeguards that are necessary for these communities at a moment when they're facing really steep barriers for accessing safe and affordable healthcare across the United States, but also at a moment in which California and its providers are being pressured to roll back existing inclusive and equitable healthcare access. Passage of AB 1876 will strengthen all these protections against discrimination in healthcare coverage, benefits, and services in California in the face of federal shifts away from equity, inclusion, and non-discrimination, and at the same time send a powerful message of support to the LGBTQ plus community, affirming that their needs matter. In creating an environment where all individuals can express their identities without fear, we're also committing to a foundation for a strong democracy. A similar bill, SB 418, passed the legislature in 2025 but was vetoed due to cost concerns. But this provision that led to the veto has now been removed and from AB 1876. For all these reasons, we respectfully ask for your yes vote on AB 1876. So those are our talking points for the three bills. As I said, stick to the baseline talking points, but if you want to cut down, if you want to style them a little to make them your own, to make it fluid, right? Then as long as we have our core messaging. And that's really important to note because, right, some offices, particularly Republican offices, may push back on some of the bills, especially AB 1876. And so if you are in this situation, um, then you can prepare a little bit. So first, right, get an idea of how they'll view AB 1876 by checking their voting record on SB 418 last year. And here we have the floor votes link, so you can see how they voted last year. And so you can get a sense of kind of what you're heading into and what you might need to say. Make sure you represent our views confidently and respectfully. Public discourse is supposed to be about us having differences in points of view and opinion, and being able to have those conversations is an important part of democracy and civil society. So don't be afraid of them. We just have to enter into them respectfully, but also being confident about where we stand. In response to any questions or positions in the bill, always refer to our PPPs, right? Our public policy priorities that support social and racial justice, equal access to quality education, economic security for all women and girls, and that promote women in leadership, because those values underlie any position that we take on legislation. We are political, we are not partisan, and we are guided by our public policy priorities. Um, and we support AB 1876 because we believe in self-determination and reproductive health. This is a bill that will strengthen protections for bodily autonomy in gender-based healthcare, something that AAUW and AAUW California has long been invested in. So if you're asked a question, you don't know the answer, it's fair to just say, I don't know, right? And just let them know that send us the question and we'll follow up to get them any answers that they need. Um, and if you are in a situation where, right, it doesn't seem to be going anywhere in the back and forth, it's always fair to say, we might need to just agree to disagree on this bill and move on. So I hope that that gives you a little bit of kind of background and support for both moving forward AB 1876 and right, thinking about how to engage with folks that might not agree with the positions that we're taking on it. So another thing that, as Amy mentioned earlier, that we're encouraging is the power of your personal kind of experiences and connections with the bills and their outcomes. So, strategic storytelling can be really useful. Now, how do you squeeze in a story since we've told you you have like a very small window of time to present AAUW California, what your branch is doing, all of these bills? You can, right, do this if in a nice little bite-size story that personalizes experiences and outcomes. So if you do have something that you can share, or you have someone else's story that you can share, this can be really powerful for sharing that story. But my challenge to you is, can you do it in 3 sentences or less? So 3 sentences or less. Sentence 1 should be the introduction and the problem. Sentence 2, brief elaboration. Sentence 3, connection to the bill or why it matters. So I gave you a story, right? Here's the example for AB 1876. My sister-in-law is transitioning. I've watched her anxiety rise as trans healthcare has been attacked federally. She worries that her insurance company will start denying necessary medical care, calling it cosmetic. AB 1876 will help people like my sister-in-law by providing necessary healthcare access in California, regardless of federal interpretations of non-discrimination policy, right? I don't know if someone timed me, right? I don't know how long that was, but I bet it was probably under 30 seconds, which is something that you all can do and that can be potentially additive to the way that you present your bills if you have a personal story. And if you're telling someone else's story, my only kind of ask and kind of note is, especially if you yourself are cis, if you yourself are not trans and you're telling the story of a trans person, make sure that you are centering their experience, and that you are giving accurate voice to their story, and do it as much as you can in their own words, rather than making it, right, talking about yourself or like your perspective. So, be mindful of how you're presenting those stories as you present them, but you don't have to shy away from them. Um, I think we're at a question slide. So I see 22 questions in the Q&A, so I think it is time. I'm going to take a drink of water. And Amy, what do we got?
Let's see. Let me go up to the top. Okay, I think this is in reference to AB 1766. Question from Diane. Is there model curriculum for the curriculum issues we are asking for? And Missy or Kathy, do we know the answer to that?
Yeah, we do. Actually, our co-sponsors that we are working with on this bill, Three Strands, and I'm going to blank on the other one, but they work in this arena. And they're, them along with other similar types of nonprofits have developed curriculum. Most often they are written by survivors themselves. So it is, obviously comes from a base of knowledge. And then, of course, when you're dealing with the developmental levels of a child, the curriculum is developed for those specific grade levels. So yes, they do exist. This is not something the state would need to basically create, because there are curriculum models out there.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that and say that we're also working with child development and human trafficking and exploitation researchers on our side, and that this is, right, informed by survivor experiences and a deep kind of bench of really great research.
Thank you. A question from Francis, she said AB 1876, but I believe this is about 1766. And the question is, our legislator, Assemblymember Josh Lowenthal, is submitting a bill to restrict social media to those under 16 years of age. If it passes, how does that affect implementation of AB 1766?
That's a really good question. I like that one. That's you got me. I think the thing is that we know that even if, first of all, I will tell you, I do not expect the Lowenthal bill to advance too far this year. If it does get to the governor, I like the bill myself, frankly, based on the research that I've seen. I think that there is a lot of merit to it. But our governor is very much a tech governor. And while he has signed bills that deal with technology platforms and information, including child sex abuse materials and so forth, he has signed bills on those issues. I don't know that he would be prepared to sign this one, but I also don't work for the governor. So now, if it were to get signed this year and the commission, which is would be slated to look at this issue under their health platform for curriculum, I believe in 2027, they would likely take this into consideration. But we all know that when you tell children not to do something, what are they going to do? They're going to find a way to do it. So I think the education aspect is still important. because you do have access, these children will have access to computers. They may not be on their phones, but there is still susceptibility when they are online working, at whatever grade level. So I would say that I would argue that the information is still critical to deliver to children. And so I don't see them as mutually exclusive bills, but that was a really good question. I like that one.
Yeah.
Thanks,
And
Kathy.
I will add to that and say that like it's not only social media spaces where this kind of grooming and exploitation happens online. It's also the things that you might not think about, like the comment thread under an article, right? So I don't think if social media is out of the picture, you don't have to go too far to still need to have, right, digital citizenship and digital literacy as part of this process.
And to add on to that, if you don't mind, it also happens in personal contact.
Yeah.
In fact, families often either barter or sell their children into trafficking. That does happen. Foster children, in particular, foster kids who are generally not in a particular foster home, but potentially a group home, those homes are targeted by traffickers. So, this very much happens in real life, day to day. So, to expand upon that, there is incredible, frankly, it's not just merit, it is critical that we let our kids know that there are dangers out there. And I hate that we're at that place in society, but that's just unfortunately the reality.
Thank you. Another question on AB 1766, this one from Cassie. Cassie says on AB 1766, it sounds like including human trafficking in curricula would be optional, correct?
It is optional for the commission to include it or not. And the reason that we go through the Instructional Quality Commission, which was frankly new to me this year. I hadn't been involved in any curriculum and legislation in quite some time. The legislature established this process to ensure sort of a two-step process. The legislature finds merit in an issue and they think that it should be included in curriculum. But as we all know, legislators pass bills, they go to the governor, and you may have 20 new issues that would have to be added to curriculum every year. So in order to sort of pace and make sure that there is enough merit in an issue, the legislature set up the commission to evaluate curriculum. Is it appropriate? Is it under the right policy framework, whether it's health committee, health issues or other types of curriculum? So they don't have to include this curriculum in their update on the health curriculum for the grades K through 12. But again, this is another avenue where AAUW, I would recommend that we, if this bill is signed, that we do work at that commission level to advocate for inclusion. So it's not a mandate, but I think there's a good reason and a great weight behind the need to include this.
Great. Question again on the same bill from Sandy Hansen. Has some source of the training for the school professionals been identified, and how would the training be funded?
I would have to go back and read the bill. I don't know that we have specific information here in the training. In high school, Title IX has not been terribly enforced. In fact, it's been pretty awful. So as far as training for human trafficking for the professionals that are included in the bill, that would be a state cost. So that you would have some curriculum likely developed IQC, and I will have to double check on this. I'm not sure of the answer, so I'll have to get back to Amy and Melissa on this. But I believe that there would be curriculum developed, and I'm not sure exactly where that would come from, but the state would pay for the inclusion of this in the training that these educators would receive.
And I'm going to preempt another question that's on the list, and sorry, Amy, but also the training isn't for every teacher, right? It's only in this bill for um, recommended for the school counselor, for like a nurse, and at least one classroom, right, in class teacher. But I think that probably hits another question about, like, the training for all teachers. That's not what this bill is suggesting in terms of identifying, right, and reporting. It's a limited scope.
Should we move to questions now on AB 1876?
Oh yeah,
There are a number of
throw them at us. Throw them at
All
us.
right. So question from Asha. The governor, and I think she's referring to SB 418, the very similar bill from last year. The governor had cited lack of utilization review was missing. Can we recommend this be added to this bill?
We can. I think if AAUW has an interest in seeing this amendment, we can request it. However, we have taken a support position on the bill. So generally, when you support a bill, unless there's really something significant, we wouldn't go in and ask for amendments. But if AAUW feels that this is an appropriate and much needed amendment, I'm always happy to go in and ask the author's office. And if they think it's a good idea, if it doesn't increase the cost too significantly, they may be amenable to doing that. So I wouldn't say no off the top. Generally, when you want to see amendments in a bill, it's prior to taking a support position on a bill, and you're basically out sending in a letter suggesting support if amended. So if you take this amendment, we're going to support the bill. We're already at the support level, so it's really a decision for the policy committee to decide, is this something we want to pursue, and then you could pursue it.
You. There's a question here from Kristen. In the first version of the talking points for AB 1876, there was significant focus on the possible withholding of federal funds for a healthcare provider delivering gender-affirming care. And all references to this funding have been removed from version 2. Is this intentional, and should presenters steer away from talking about the providers? And yes, Kristen, that was intentional. There was a lot of confusion that came out of the initial version of the talking points for AB 1876. AB 1876 is really all about the insurance providers, not the providers of the healthcare. So that's why we cleaned it up and removed all those previous references. So please just stay with the new version of the talking points, which is marked Rev 1 in the bottom lower left corner if you're printing them out. And the ones that are posted on the website are the correct ones. Pamela has a question. If asked the need for AB 1876 if California already has protections, I think if California already has protections, why do we need it?
There are protections that exist. Frankly, we have a legislature that's been fairly progressive, particularly, well, frankly, over the past several decades. And equity has been an important part of the policy that has been developed over the years. Unfortunately, what we have is a downward pressure from the federal government to remove any protections, any, frankly, services for, in particular, the transgender community, but LGBTQ plus as well. And we have seen many of the DEI bells unrung as pressure has been put on law firms, educational institutions, health providers, health plans across the board. Every time I see something new, it's like, oh, they missed that one. So, they're catching up here. But it is really essential for California to make sure that at least if you want to do business in the state, you do business with everybody. It's not a select few. It is not a select demographic. So I would argue this bill is very much needed, in particular, as some health plans are probably feeling pressure from the federal government in terms of providing these services. The federal administration has been very aggressive and very, unfortunately, very damaging. We've seen some providers just simply cease providing services in California. So it's really essential that this bill move forward.
And the kind of slow walking is also limiting healthcare services. So this one covers not just the coverage itself and and benefits, but also doesn't allow for discrimination in terms of the limitations that can be placed on certain kinds of healthcare coverage. So in that little story that I wrote, right? If something is labeled as cosmetic, right, then it's not coverable, right, or it's only covered to a limited degree, and this would, provide more protections for something that had historically not been labeled as cosmetic, to an insurer to not be able to do that if it's on the basis of sex-based or gender-based discrimination. So that's an example of what this would do that we don't already have kind of codified in California to help with these protections.
Let's see. I see some more. Okay. Christina has a question. Will AB 1876 keep the federal government from pressuring hospitals to close their youth transgender health clinics or lose funding, certifications, etc.?
They've already done that.
Yeah.
The Children's Hospital in LA has closed their gender equality clinic. I don't have the precise name, but they have closed their clinic that provides services for transgender people. We know that there are other pressure points that have been applied to providers and systems. So that is happening.
And another question on the same bill. Christine asks, it could be a real concern that AB 1876 could force hospitals and insurers into an untenable position if the federal government withholds federal funding if they're required to follow the new California law. Is the bill's author trying to address this? I'm guessing this could cause treatment providers to oppose the bill.
No. In short, we cannot control what the federal government does. And we have seen a very, very aggressive approach on this. Businesses, hospitals, providers, health plans will make their own decisions based on, frankly, their bottom line and what they need or want to do. However, if they wish to do business in California, this is something that they will have to make some very meticulous decisions on. We know that when you start targeting one segment of a population, the rest of us are not far behind. And so, I think that there could be potential conflict here, but it is frankly not up This author is, I don't see her working to bridge that gap. I think this is to push that question of what are you going to do? Are you going to do the right thing?
And I'll point out that one of the sponsors on this bill is Planned Parenthood. Which is a provider, right, of services. You do have providers that have historically provided these services that are, um, you know, sponsoring the bill. And to echo what Kathy says, like gender affirming care is also about bodily autonomy. And so, abortion access is about bodily autonomy. So we have to be very mindful of how these kinds of attacks on anything that has to do with gender and gender marginalization and bodily autonomy can echo. And I think that's just really important to note.
Thank you. It is 8:12. I think we still have several questions in here. Are you okay to stay on for a few more minutes? Kathy, I know you got your mom. Is it okay? Thank you. Back to, okay, so here, our teachers, this is from Marcy, our teacher unions behind 1766 and 1845. We're once again asking teachers to be on the front lines.
So I think this is the question I eyeballed earlier, and this is so we are asking teachers to teach, right, healthy relationships and, right, digital citizenship at an earlier age to prevent exploitation. But the actual reporting requirements are not being placed on all teachers, and the interventions that is limited to the people in a school setting that already would have been tasked with other sorts of identification and reporting, like counselors and nurses. So I hope that that addresses that part of the question. But Kathy, go ahead.
CTA, California Teachers Association, I don't see a position that they've taken as of yet. The California Federation of Teachers is in support. There's no opposition on file, but I will argue that it is early in the process, and so there may be opposition coming down the road. But at this snapshot in time, Teachers Association is very on top of bills, and I think if this is something that they had a significant concern about, they would have already lobbed in a letter of opposition. So the fact that we don't see that tells me that they're more than likely working with the author.
Two kind of related questions, one from Lori and one from Sina. Will there be material discussing age appropriateness of the human trafficking education? Does the bill allow parents to opt out? And the issue of anticipating pushback from the Christian right to the curriculum, especially over age appropriateness and the role of family to inform? If so, what are anticipated responses?
So at this snapshot in time, the bill does not speak to parental consent, parental non-consent. There is not a requirement in the bill at this snapshot that says you have to do this. So we're not there yet. I would absolutely anticipate that, and we're talking 1766, right, Amy? I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So on that one, boy, if you've got a parent that doesn't want to have their child educated about dangerous people out there, man, that's really something. This is not. I could see that question coming down for AB 1876 if there was a teaching component here. But on the human trafficking, no. Again, we're not at that point yet. It is not in the schools. I would certainly anticipate that we may have some pushback from parents. The Christian right, I think we're going to get a sense of what that looks like as the bill moves through the committee. We did have 2 Republicans and one very, very conservative Republican, Leticia Castillo, who supported the bill in committee. So I think if this was of concern to the Christian right and very conservative, hard right-leaning parents, I don't think she would have voted for this bill.
It's a nice indication then.
Yeah,
Great.
it is.
And Cassie asks if the Instructional Quality Commission's orders are mandatory for school districts. If the commission does include trafficking in the curricula, do school districts have to comply?
It would be in the curriculum, part of the health curriculum. So yeah, that would be going forward. That's what schools would be teaching now. I can't speak to individual schools or individual teachers or principals and how they would interpret this. But my understanding is it would be in the curriculum and required teaching.
Okay, great. And then Charmin just has a comment that some trafficking training is already required for K through 12, at least in the district where she's teaching.
Yeah,
Mostly
right
around
now it is
teen.
mandatory in grades 7 through 12. So it is covered there. The reason that Krell is moving this bill and the reason that we are co-sponsoring it is because we know that children under 12 are targeted. There's just no question about that.
Missy, do you see any others in here that we can tackle here before we let people go?
I would say maybe just some of the general questions. Like if you're asked about the estimated cost of a proposed bill, then that would be a potential good candidate for saying, I don't know, I'll get back to you on that one.
Absolutely. There is, it's not, oftentimes sponsors may try to do an analysis based on what they think the cost should be. But what will happen, this bill does go to Appropriations Committee. They have analysts that are used to sort of weighing what the issue is, what the time involved would be, what the cost to the commission would be, et cetera. And they would put a cost on that. And they work with the various agencies, whether it's Department of Finance, they will work directly with the commission to get their feedback on what they anticipate costs. So this is a very, very detailed thing. There is no way that they would expect you to know the costs. And if you are asked about the cost, you can just say we just won't know that until we get to appropriations. We don't have that information at this time. I don't have that information, and I can't get that information to get back to a legislator until I see that appropriations analysis.
And maybe just a quickie on, like, if you're discussing assembly bills with a senator, and they're in assembly, the senator probably won't be familiar with them yet. So the question is, how do we ask for support when it's in the other legislative body?
Good question. And they're used to this. When you have your lobby days, you're lobbying both houses. Some bills will make it over to the second house, some bills may not. So the way to do this would be just to say, if this bill is passed by the assembly and comes before you for a vote, we would appreciate your aye vote.
A quickie from Francis. How do we feel about us leaving the legislators with a folder of our PPPs, notes about AAUW, and the one pagers from the bills, the talking points?
I think leaving behind the one pagers, I'm really going to have to defer to Amy because I'm not sure of everything that's going to be in your packets, but the fact sheets, absolutely leave those behind. if you make the copies, certainly your AUW cards that we were talking about a little earlier in the process. I don't know that there's anything else that I would recommend we leave behind.
Okay, well, how about the bill talking points, Kathy? You think it's okay if folks want to leave a copy of that or no?
No,
Okay.
it's not appropriate. It is, these talking points are for you to help you articulate what the bills do. Um, and the fact sheets, that's what they are used to seeing. That gives them the succinct information about the bills, and that's the appropriate material to leave behind.
Yeah.
I think we hit the major points. There's one question about like federal, right, things about the state legislature bypassing federal guidelines on DEI. So can the state legislature bypass federal guidelines on DEI? Um,
We do it every day.
that's right.
Every single day.
And because the current federal guidelines are not law.
And California, I'm trying to remember how many suits we have against the administration. I think we're well over 40 by now.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We have such a philosophical divide with this federal administration, and California has and consistently will continue to push back on a variety of issues. The administration, the federal administration has come in. They are trying to take funding away from public institutions, private institutions that have any sort of DEI programs. The state is pushing back on that. So this is a fight.
Yep.
It is a good fight. And, I think between this governor, our current AG, this legislature, and frankly, I think any legislature that comes in over the next couple of years, they will continue to fight.
Correct. And let's say fingers crossed, continue to win. I'll end with a happy, but the dear colleague letter from the Department of Education was rescinded, right, in February because of these kinds of state level challenges that continued through the system and led to them rescinding the guidance on removing DEI from education. No, it's not that they're not fighting on other fronts, but it's just to show that, right, this is really critical for actually being able to push back. Do you want to end on a happy note?
I think so. And Missy and I have just a couple more slides to go, but Kathy, I know that we need to let you go. So thank you so
Oh,
much.
you're welcome. I'm happy to stay on. I just need to
Is that
disappear
okay?
for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then I can come back. So if you're still on, I'll be back.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Is this me?
Yeah, or I can do it. It's up to you. Do you want to do it?
Oh,
Okay, go ahead.
why don't we can tag team? You stay
Yeah.
on and then
Yeah.
okay. Um, so we want to give one more shout out to the team leaders for taking on this role, especially in a year that we're kind of playing with changes to the system. So thank you for taking on the role and kind of being flexible and rolling with this. Um, uh, Amy, I'm not taking any credit for any of those materials. Amy has done an amazing job, and there's a team leader checklist because we have different things in different places. But the checklist gives you a really clear overview of all the different tasks and responsibilities for you to manage.
That was actually Missy's brainchild. Make a checklist for the team leaders. So, you do deserve credit.
But this is how it turned out. Isn't this lovely? So Amy, do you want to walk through it or
Yeah, it's pretty, it's pretty self-explanatory, but team leaders, this is just to keep you organized so that you don't forget all of the details. We're so appreciative of all the things that you're doing to make your meetings a success. So just, this is about like making sure that you share the meeting details with your team, make sure that you assign the roles out so that people know what they're going to be speaking about. Research the legislator, check their voting record, see if they are serving on the committees that are going to be hearing our bills, schedule a dry run, and all the things that you should do during the meeting and then after the meeting, including sending a thank you note, filling out the visit report form and submitting that back to us so that we know how your meetings went, any questions or concerns that may have been raised during your meeting. And then please do take that photo and upload it here. Sandy Gabe set up a nice platform for us where photos can be very easily uploaded with a caption so we can put together a photo album of everybody's meetings. And this team leader checklist is one of the things that's on the website, so you'll be able to find it there.
And I just reposted that website, and a reminder that the slides will be up there shortly as well. And that is the link that's on this slide. But it's also right now dropped in the chat. Just this is your home base for everything that you need. And I think that brings us to the end. And I'm not sure we had any other questions pop up.
Just one final thing, there is going to be a post-webinar survey that will pop up for you as you exit this webinar. So please take a moment to complete it so that we can hear your feedback and find out how you felt about what you learned tonight and any recommendations for how we can improve these presentations in the future. Thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And thank you for being AAUW California advocates.
We appreciate you, and we appreciate all the thanks in the Q&A. And we hope that you feel empowered and ready to go advance our public policy priorities and these important pieces of legislation. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.